Don't you sometimes get tired of being told what you cannot do, or accomplish? It begins when we're young. Don't touch that. Wait an hour before you go swimming. Be nice to your brother and sister. When I first became a parent, there wasn't enough time, there wasn't enough sleep, and there were never enough helping hands. And I was constantly telling my kids what they could and could not do. And that's unfortunate because, like many of you, I don't like being told what I can and cannot do. And I knew that this was not something I wanted to pass on to my kids. So, it goes into work also. We're told, we're going to have budget cuts. We're going to have limited resources. We have to do more with less. And it carries on into our adult life too. Just yesterday during rehearsal, I was reminded several times not to step out of this red circle. But if we don't explore the edges of what's possible and go beyond, then there's this voice inside of our head that's going to tell us to play it safe. And that's no fun. Plus, I'm convinced that this can lead to a decrease in our ability to accomplish the things that are truly important to us. So, what can you do? I learned a lot. I learned a lot from this guy, Shaq. No. Forget him. The other Shaq. Ernest Shackleton. Ernest Shackleton was this extraordinary British explorer whose focus was on Antarctica because he was nuts. In 1915 and 1916, he made the third of 3 explorations on a sailing vessel called Endurance. There were 28 men on board. And as they reached Antarctica, the winter ice became thick. Their ship was trapped for weeks. Can you imagine trying to live in conditions like that? It would be almost as bad as a weekend at a bedbug-infested roach motel. Worse than a college dorm room. The only upside for these poor sailors is they had plenty of ice for their bourbon, which I think helped a lot. They were on their ship. Shackleton said, we need to abandon. So what they did is they took their lifeboats, gear, and provision and lowered them all to the ice floe. Suddenly, their resources became quite scarce, and they were living on thick sheets of ice that they called an ocean camp. Hard to imagine. They made their way to a place called Elephant Island, which is kind of interesting because I am positive there's no elephants on that godforsaken island. Penguins, perhaps. And what they did, which was really cool, is they took the sails from the Endurance and they repurposed them as a roof and to block the brutal winds. Weeks later, Shackleton called another meeting and all the men got together. And he said, look, we're stuck here on this island because a couple of days ago, we all watched as the ice and water took our Endurance and slowly brought her under. We have no way of going anywhere. However, there's an island 750 miles away off the coast of Chile, and there's a whaling village there. If we can reach that, we'll be safe. And his men looked at him as if he was a little bit wacky. But here's what he did. He said, I have a plan. We're going to take the largest of the 3 lifeboats. And they just looked at him. He said, but we're going to do something else. We're going to repurpose it. We're going to take wood from another one of the lifeboats and shore up the sides of this open ocean vessel. And we're going to take some men and we're going to sail there. Kind of nutty. But Shackleton was that kind of man. So what they did is they took the boat, they shored up the sides, and he selected 5 men. And these 6 brave men, complete with provisions, decided to get in this open ocean vessel. And what was so cool is they took another sail from the Endurance, propped it up in the lifeboat, and used it to catch the wind. They made their way. As they left, their mates weren't sure if they would see them again. Probably not. But using that sail in the Endurance, they were able to catch the wind. Now, they almost capsized twice. Death was close, but it never grabbed them. Remarkably, they made it to the island in just over 16 days. And once again, on shore, they realized rather quickly that they had landed on the wrong side of the island. Separating them from the whaling village and safety was a mountain 4,500 feet. Now, I'm told that Shackleton was seen with his Garmin in his hand going, "Recalculate, recalculate." A couple of days later, after they had an opportunity to relax and get their strength back, he picked two men. And these three brave men in the cold began to traverse the mountain that separated them from safety. And as they began to traverse it, I thought to myself, these folks are incredibly brave. No polar fleece jackets, no beautiful North Face down with the puffy, lovely, comfortable feathers, and no Gore-Tex boots. They just had grit, determination, and hunger. What obstacles are getting in your way? What icy seas are you currently navigating in your life? Are you truly being resourceful? At work, it could be lack of employees. Maybe there's been staff that's been taken off cases or perhaps let go. It could be, again, budget cuts or just poor communications, but we also face it in our personal life. There could be the death of a loved one, which we heard about earlier, a relationship that was once close but isn't anymore, or maybe you or somebody you care about got a diagnosis and a health issue that you really didn't want to get. This all happens. And then there's raising kids. That's an adventure. There's family and an extended family. You know, that's an adventure. And then our jobs. All of this can seem difficult, if not impossible. But it's essential that we figure out the obstacles that are getting in our way. Because if we don't, we reach a limit in what we're able to accomplish. And this is one reason that people burn out, check out, leave their jobs, their family, their life. Back to Shackleton. So these three men traversed the mountain, and at the summit, they could see the whaling village below. And like little kids, they slid down about 800 feet going, whee! And then they used rope and cut into the mountain and slowly made their way down. They were greeted by the village manager, Mr. Sorrell. He welcomed them. They shaved, cleaned up, and ate well. And then they made plans to rescue the others back on Elephant Island. In a ship lent to them by the whalers, they went around the island and picked up their mates, and then it took them 3 separate ships lent to them by 3 different countries before they were able to navigate the thick, jagged ice. 105 days of loneliness and brutal cold was over for the men who joyfully welcomed their captain. I wonder if Jack and Rose wish that Shackleton was the captain in the Titanic that fateful night. I mean, at least he knew how to navigate ice-covered seas. They had suffered. They had stories to share, and they lived to tell us about it. That was over 100 years ago. Their focus was never on constraints and limited resources. Instead, with the leadership of who would become Sir Ernest Shackleton, they were reminded that resourcefulness and ingenuity requires considering multiple angles, multiple perspectives of the same resource, plus persistence and bravery. So to truly solve this problem and achieve our goals of doing more with less, we have to understand that resourcefulness and ingenuity requires considering multiple angles, multiple perspectives of the same resource. And resourcefulness, that's having the ability to see something well enough to understand how you can use what otherwise looked like a constraint. When we see more in what we have we can do more with what we have. And this also connects in our work life. According to the Workplace Research Foundation, highly engaged employees are 38% more likely to have above average resourcefulness and productivity. How do we do that? Good relationships with their manager and open communication. A sense also from staff that leaders and senior leaders value them as true contributors can all help. But what does this all mean to you? Because today is about you, your life, and truly becoming resourceful. I spent 25 years at a Berkshire Hathaway company, and I learned that it often wasn't staff's fault if business and resourcefulness wasn't where it needed to be. It was ours, leaders. As leaders and collectively, I'm asking you to take a leap of faith that the sharing of information and ideas, allowing everyone to consider multiple angles and multiple perspectives of the same resource, will allow us to continue growing our resourcefulness and even communication between coworkers and departments. Now, this is something all of us can do, no matter the situation. How do I know? Because there's an even deeper reason I chose to speak here today. Like many of you, I too have been up against arduous times that did sideline me and reduce my resourcefulness. And I understand all about how important the idea of sharing information can be to one's success. And resourcefulness? Yeah. I understand its importance. These are my kids, Jonathan and Alexandra. When they were 2 and 4 years old, they were kidnapped and taken to the Middle East by the person I trusted most, their mother, my wife. And when this happened, there were no signed international laws requiring them to be returned. No signed international laws, I thought to myself, you've got to be kidding me. I never thought that those 4 words would ever cross my path in a million years. I was devastated. I was faced with massively limited resources. And then one day, I'm in the bathroom and I'm shaving and I'm looking at myself in the mirror in a picture of the kids I had taken a few weeks before. And that's when it hit me. I had been plotting and planning and role-playing with people for months on ways to go around my wife. Hire mercenaries, fly over there, right? Get some detectives and just fly over to Israel and everything will be fine. But what I needed to do is go through her. And this resourcefulness proved to be pivotal. Every hour, every day for weeks and months, I struggled to remove multiple barriers like not enough money, no lawyers, stress level way up here, and focus that was not real good. But eventually, I came up with the money. I hired a great legal team. And my stress level went down to just enough so it was manageable and I didn't just crawl into a little corner and curl up into a ball. Yes, I did it. I accomplished what few people, including myself, thought could ever be done. I located them. I came up with a less than foolproof plan and was eventually successful in getting them back home. It was the opposite of easy. It was the opposite of easy, a challenge like I've never faced before. It was beyond difficult. But seeing and being open to multiple perspectives and multiple angles, it did pay off. I had the honor and pleasure of raising Jonathan and Alexandra, except for a couple of moments during their teenage years. Folks, what is it that you really need to focus on? This is all about you and your life. You own this. Define for yourself the obstacles that are getting in the way of your resourcefulness and ask yourself, what am I going to do differently? Are you willing to consider multiple angles and multiple perspectives? I mean, I'm not asking you to trek an ice-covered mountain just to bring your staff or your family back bagels and cream cheese and donuts, but definite bonus points if you do. Are you stuck on the ice? Do you want to eat penguin for 105 days? Or do you want to live your life, your dream, to its fullest? Because you see, when we focus on truly becoming resourceful and looking at multiple angles and multiple perspectives of the same resource, when we explore the edges of what's possible and beyond, we begin to understand that when we see more in what we have, we can do more with what we have.